Good morning. Um, Happy Wednesday. I didn't post Tuesdays yet. It's an interesting Monday. Oh my God, it's an interesting Wednesday for me. I'm doing this on my way to work out for my morning walk. It's overcast again today, which I kind of love walking when it's overcast, warm because it's still 72 degrees, but it's a great walk morning when it's overcast and like 72. It's also really great golfing when it's like this. And I haven't golfed in such a long time. It's kind of disturbing. But anyway, I survived yesterday's antics. It's interesting for me. I've been doing a lot of writing on Substack. Don't know if the one or two people that look at this know that, but I do a lot of, I started probably, I don't know, May, June for sure. I think I started in May when I posted my first essay on Substack, which all started off to be all professional about leadership and HR, which is my history. I have a degree in business and a master's degree in education, and so I've spent more than 2 decades in HR, and never really loved the compliance part of it, but always really loved the people part of it, of the job. I have a real love for leadership because I think leadership is what makes employment bearable and intolerable at the same time when you have a really shitty boss or poor leadership at the top, or however you want to look at it. And so that's always kind of been a thing for me. But anyway, I write a lot on there, which I've always loved to write. I've always wrote little essays for myself, because I get ideas. Shit just comes to my head, which is why I probably should be better at doing social media posts like this, because something is always popping in my head. But I always write, but I never did anything with it. I would just write and tuck it away for years. And through this journey that I've been on of entrepreneur, and I feel like I want to stop calling it like this entrepreneurial journey, because although from a work or a financial standpoint, I have switched from being an employee to being an entrepreneur or business owner. But I feel like the real change and the real journey has been so much more personal than from this employment standpoint. Like the employment standpoint is certainly a journey, but since I left corporate America in October of 2025, the real evolution has been more about me, which has been really unexpected, really very interesting, but really unexpected. Really unexpected. And I find that those are the things that I wrestle with a lot lately, is much more the things that I am finding out and recognizing about myself, which also is really interesting to me, because I've always prided myself on being pretty self-aware, right? Like pretty self-aware, pretty, I just was being a jerk right now, I'm not letting somebody merge in. But it's pretty self-aware and pretty open about who I am and that type of thing. But there have been some really big realizations I believe, about things that I hadn't really thought about, or things that I thought about and just kind of tucked in the back of my head. And I believe that now my eyes, God has really opened up my eyes in a way that I recognize things, and I'm less about, I don't want to say not giving people grace, because that's not really what it is, but it is this clarity, maybe is the better word, is that having the clarity to see, for me, in my life, in my situation, see people and situations for what they are. I think in my own personal life, and even in my professional life, when things impacted and were related directly to me, I always wanted to give people the benefit, or I always wanted to look at the glass as half full versus half empty. I never wanted to approach things that it was intended to be negative, or that I would always kind of go, well, maybe you're just making a bigger deal about that, or maybe, you're reading more into it than it's really there. And this part of this journey that I've been on, this self journey that I've been on, has been very much about seeing situations and seeing interactions and people and things that relate to me for what they are. And that at moments has been difficult, if you will, for me to stop and go, wow, okay, that was pretty fucked up. Or, wow, I saw it. And the problem, well, not the problem, but the thing that I'm realizing is that I see things so clearly. That I think that's the reason I've been successful in my professional careers, because one of the things that I am really good at is seeing through bullshit, through situations like in corporate America and just business in general. I have this really interesting knack for looking at a situation, or having someone or tell me about a situation, look, like digging or looking into something, a situation, whether it's people, whether it's a business project, whether it's whatever, and it's weird, but kind of seeing it from a very holistic standpoint, but seeing the holes in it pretty early on and pretty clearly. Odd, but I just do, like, so even when someone brings something to me, I'm like, immediately I'm like, I can see the gaps in that. But I think I have clearly, intentionally and purposefully tried not, I don't know if it's tried not to, but have not done that for things that impact me directly. And I think maybe my profession has created that for me, because so many people come to you, especially when you're in your resources or leadership, and make big deals out of things that are really not that big of a deal sometimes, or have very sensitive feelings about something that it's like, you need to get a little bit thicker skin about that. Like that's, like you're turning, that old saying, you're turning a mountain into a molehill. And so I guess I've really turned that on myself a lot, to not be the victim and not let things go, and like, oh, sure, you're being uber sensitive about that, or oh, it's not as bad as you think it is, or they didn't mean it that way. And I think God has really opened my eyes on this part of my journey to say, for this next season, you need to be aware of the people that you have around you, and stop playing this game with yourself that everybody's cheering you on, or stop playing the game with yourself that people's intentions are either are what they are or not what they are, or, as my brother would say, that people are in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And I'm such a relationship person. I think that I always go in thinking that this person or this relationship is going to be long-standing relationship, because I don't ever I'm not a very transactional person. So I never go in thinking, I'm just going to be friends with you for now because I need X, Y, and Z from you. If I'm going to engage with you, I engage with you wholeheartedly. And that's just who I am. So I think my intentions that everybody else's intentions are the same as mine, they're not. So I say all this that yesterday I went to this, I don't know if I probably mentioned yesterday, 2 years ago, I won Executive of the Year in Los Angeles. Completely unexpected, was nominated by a person that an external person, actually, a recruiter that I used to work with, who we connected because she had reached out to me about a job, about a role, and then we ended up working together, where I hired her to do some recruiting for the company I used to work for, and she did a lot of recruiting for me. We just developed a friendship, and she always raved about it, who I was, how I worked, blah, 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 blah. So she nominated me for this award, and I won, which was really unexpected and kind of crazy. But anyway, so having won, now I am on the panel that every year goes through and interviews the next, they call it EOY, Executive of the Year, for the next year. So yesterday was that. And I have been feeling some kind of way. So, of course, when I was recognized 2 years ago, I was a part of a company, a pretty big company, global company. And the president of the organization, for all intents and purposes, I felt like, and maybe he's that way with all the contenders, I felt like he was pretty up my ass, right? Like I liked him. I thought he was a good guy. We went to lunch a couple of times, and it was always very jovial when I would see him, and and he was always checking in on me or whatever. So then I won, same thing. I always felt like really great, right? And when I left corporate America, I felt a shift in him. But me and my it's really not a shift. Well, yeah, it's a freaking shift, right? And it's a shift that I never, I was talking myself out of it because, I had put him in the good guy box. And not that he's not a good guy, but I think, confirmed yesterday that he's a transactional person. And I don't serve, even though, I won and I'm part of that group. I won't say I'm part of the tribe because I don't really think I'm part of the tribe. The other part of me is that I've never been a big networker because, again, networking to me always seems very transactional, and I'm not a very transactional relationship type person. So I've never really been a networker. I just, got a job, locked in, did what I was supposed to do, but I never spent a lot of time out in mixers and going to stuff and knowing a lot of people. So it's been interesting that in my own profession, I don't know a lot of people. I do know some people, but I don't know a lot of people because I just never did the networking. And in this particular organization, a lot of the folks have been connected to it for years, and so they are much bigger networkers, and so a lot of them know each other fairly well. Like, they've known each other for years. They've known each other through different jobs. They've known each other. So I consider myself to be kind of the newbie and kind of the outlier. And so one of the things, again, about this journey is opening my eyes to the fact that, and not really opening my eyes, but having the realization that I'm not a part of a lot of these tribes for a lot of reasons. I think I've just never been a get along type of person, as in I'll never compromise who I am to be a part of a group or a part of a clique or a part of an organization. Like, I am who I am, and so I won't change that. And now I do also believe that a lot of it is because that's just the way it was. That's just the way it's meant to be. And so I don't feel part of this tribe either, right? Which is okay, because I know how to socialize, and I'm still, I still go, I'm still connected, I still have, good time, and I've still met some really great people and all of that. But I realized yesterday that, at least for this particular guy who I really liked and really felt I had a good connection with, that it's a very transactional relationship with him. And once I no longer was a part of that organization, and once he no longer could tote me as, the person that was part of this organization, I didn't hold the same value for him, because me being an entrepreneur, me being my own business owner, to him there's no cloud in that for him. There's no benefit for that. He gets no benefit for that, which I think is short-sighted, because I think there's a lot of benefits to it. Because I think there's a lot of people out there that are entrepreneurs. I think there's a lot of people out there that are doing their thing, and that could use a organization that supports that and connects them, and all the things, right? That there's value in us that have set out on our own. But for him and his organization, or what he's done, he wants the name of the organization, he wants the company. And so, as much as I say that, it also was the aha moment. It's like, he doesn't really necessarily care about any of us. He really cares about the company that you work for. So you are, it's kind of like the Janet Jackson effect. What have you done for me lately? And so he rah-rahs, like, if you leave your job and you go to another company, a bigger job, bigger organization, then he's like, yay. But if you don't, it's more like, because to him, you don't have the same value. Like, I can't prop you up and say, look, this is Cheryl, and she works for such and such, this company. And so this big company, and, we're connected to this big company. And that's why you should come and be a membership with them. Why should you come and be a member with us? Because look at the caliber of people that we bring into the organization. We bring in the caliber of people that work for these big companies. And so once I no longer worked for that big company, I don't really serve a value for him. And so I kind of felt that this last 6 or 7 months, when I would see him or bump into him at different functions, that there was a real kind of a disconnect, if you will, to our relationship. It just was different. And I kept thinking, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm being uber sensitive because I'm going through this journey. All these realizations are coming. And so maybe it's me. Maybe I am being hypersensitive. Maybe I am feeling, some type of way. Maybe it's me. But yesterday I realized, no, it's not me. It's him. And again, it was an opportunity for me to take the rose-colored glasses off and realize, again, that kind of purpose, that kind of, not purpose, but that kind of reason, season, lifetime. There was a reason. It wasn't a season. Maybe it was a season, because it was a season at the time. And I do believe that, for sure, me, again, I can go into that in another page, because I'm already 18 minutes in. But I can now look back and see that the job that I got, or was not a job that I would have gone for, but it was the job that God wanted me to have, because that job allowed me to do in some of these other things. Like, I may have never got the award had I not worked where I was working. And the award was something that God wanted me to do, which is probably part of something else, which I don't really know yet, hasn't revealed to me yet. But I do believe that every step is a step that God has towards the bigger plan. And so he was part of that season. And so as I was driving home last night, I kind of sat with the fact that, okay, it's different. And I need to realize that the relationship is different. Not, his intention and his focus is what it is. It's not good or bad. He's running a nonprofit organization for human resources. There's a benefit to it for him, because he is also in a business that is around benefits and stuff. And so he's constantly around the people that he needs to be around in order to sell his service. And he's done a great thing. Like, it's a good organization. He's grown it and it's good. But I think I probably put too much into it. I don't know, which is what I tend to do because I'm a relationship person again. And yesterday was, I think, the full circle of me realizing that I was a commodity for him. I was the first African American woman. I think it was first African American to Black person to win this award. They've done it. This will be the 11th year that they've done this Executive of the Year for Los Angeles, and so I was the first African American. So I was a commodity. I was a woman. I was a Black woman, and I worked at a big company, a big global company, and that was all commodities for him. And when I stepped away from that, I no longer was a commodity. I was no longer useful in a way for him because I was no longer attached to that company. I won 2 years ago. I serve a purpose, but not the purpose, the bigger purpose that maybe he had intended me to serve on a longer standing process. Because I remember, long after, he was like, well, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are your prospects? What are you doing? What are you doing? And I said, yeah, I think I'm going to lean into my own thing. And I remember kind of going, oh, okay. And that was the change for him, of which I didn't necessarily pick up on, but it was. But it's another chapter, another turn in the page, another turn in the book, page in the book, chapter in the book that says, okay, realizing and recognizing who people are, where you stand with them. And it's kind of sad for me because I did really like him. I do really like him. He's a good guy. But I could even see yesterday the difference in how he interacted with me. And like he was introducing us every time we had a couple of the people that were up for the award for this year. I knew. I think 2 of them I knew. 2 of them I didn't know. And so every time, someone else came in for their interview, he went around the table. There was 5 of us and and introduced us. I'm sorry. And I noticed that when he would introduce me, as that I formerly worked at this organization. He never really leaned into or said much about the fact that, I had my own company. I was doing my own thing. It was always, he still needed to drop that big company. And I kind of was like, okay. So anyway, that's my stick for today. I don't know. I feel like I'm a little sad because I did really like him, but that time is gone. I'm still a part of the organization. I'm still part of that thing. I just need to put it where it belongs and engage as much as I see that I want to engage, or that I find the benefit for me out of it. Because there was a lot of times that I felt an obligation to participate in things because I had won and because I'm a loyal person, and so I wanted to do my part, one, to support him and all these things. And now I realize that I need to do it because it's something I want to do, not something that I feel obligated to do, and certainly not something specifically for him and his support, because his support for me has waned because I am no longer the commodity he needs me to be. Happy Wednesday.